Welcome to Barbells and Body Slams. I'm your host, Tom Babiak, and in today's episode, guys, I'm talking about the importance of always evolving and or reinventing yourself. Now, in order to best do this, I picked from an endless list of professional wrestling greats to choose from that not only have evolved, but also have succeeded in the world of professional wrestling to best help teach today's lesson. Now, whether you're a wrestling fan or even a pro wrestler, we're going to take you guys on a journey to hear about their success and deliver some helpful tips that will help you not only break through your own plateaus, but even evolve to the next level, whether it's in the gym, in the squared circle, or other aspects of your life that you feel you can apply this to. Finally, in our main event interview, we'll be interviewing Robert Strauss, better known to many out there in TNA as Robbie E and the tag team, the Bromance. We'll be discussing why he too decided to reinvent his own character for pro wrestling, how he earned the opportunity, which is awesome, to be on The Rock's NBC show The Titan Games, and finally, how he feels the Titan Games is like American Ninja Warrior, but on steroids. Now, there's a lot to cover, but I promise, as you stick around, you won't want to miss it. With that being said, guys, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to the channel below. Once again, I'm Tom Babiak, and this is Barbells and Body Slams.
Come get on the train.
It's time to come aboard the Ho Train. That's right, the very first wrestler and character we're going to be talking about today on Barbells and Body Slams when it comes to the importance of always evolving and reinventing yourself is the leader of the Ho Train himself, Charles Wright, better known to many as the Godfather. And we're talking about the importance of persistence. As we know, the Godfather was not the first character that Charles Wright played, and neither did it make him the immediate impact player in the world of professional wrestling. Persistence and not giving up is the perfect word, I think, that is the perfect characteristic to describe the Godfather. First, there was the voodoo priest Papa Shango. Then came along the MMA fighter that clearly had no idea how to strike, Kama Mustafa. Finally, in the Attitude Era, we met the Godfather. See, the Godfather's character flourished, especially during this time of the WWE. The Godfather not only had a light and fun personality that played out around WWE television weekly, but also led to a few championship runs. Though he wasn't a main event player, his hard work and persistence of not quitting and continuing to evolve in the business and himself led to a truly successful pro wrestling career and eventually a spot for him, as you know, in the WWE Hall of Fame. See, what we learned from the Godfather's characteristic is that not everything always goes as planned, the first time or even the second time. When we think we may have found the best way to solve a problem or so, and where we get comfortable, it doesn't always turn out that way. Soon enough though, without evolving and being persistent, we truly may get pinned or counted out. Over time, just like it did for the Godfather, persistence can truly pay off for you and I, but you always have to keep on moving forward. Now, let's get up, and start climbing aboard that Ho Train for lesson number 2. Here we go. Building off lesson 1 of being persistent, our second lesson is the ability and importance of having adaptability. See, when things seem to be going in the right direction, something in life always comes around to make you either have to zig, zag, duck, or plain old just get out of the way. I'm sure we all can relate to that. While again, many could be chosen based on this lesson, one that came to mind when it comes to adapting to different gimmicks or situations given to him was the former WWE Heavyweight Champion, JBL, Justin Bradshaw Layfield. He was the definition of a performer willing to try anything until he found something that worked. How much of you had to work to adapting to situations to better yourself off? When it comes to JBL, cowboy cliches dominated his first few gimmicks in the WWE Universe, which he spent as a solo act or in a short tag team with either Barry Windham, Terry Funk, or Taka Michinoku. Try and say that 3 times fast. Bradshaw's career turned around when he started to show his adaptability, dropping his cowboy act for his more sinister type of evil, performing in the accolades with Farouk. Damn! And finally, part of the Ministry of Darkness with The Undertaker. His funny side with Farouk led to a lot of great gimmicks in the APA and so forth, and as a great tag team. Eventually, after they broke up, he found success with the egomaniac persona that we all know and love, or love to hate, JBL. That's right, guys. So being able to adapt when it comes to life situations that are thrown at us is something that we all have to be able to do. Being able to adapt and have the courage to make sometimes tough choices is what makes us greater in the long run and can help us to lead to our greatest success seen by characters such as JBL. Even if it's ducking that clothesline from hell or doing what has to be done to improve our job or relationships, what you have to do and to adapt to be the best version of yourself. That's my question for you today. But lesson number 3 is next, and you'll be doing everything you need to do except resting in peace. How many times have you been told to be authentic? Being your true self is so worth it. See, disappointing others in the process, I've learned, is okay too. Why? Because you can't please everyone, and you never will. See, it took me a long time to understand that too. Not worrying about what others think and being the best authentic version of you is best described by one wrestling character that has lasted decades in the wrestling business. Not only being authentic, but being his true self, he has also remained relevant in the world of professional wrestling that will be happy, as we know, to throw you out like yesterday's news. What better character to have for a wrestling lesson number 3 when talking about being authentic than the Phenom himself, The Undertaker. The Undertaker undergoes many character changes over the last couple years, but he's always stayed true to his character. No matter if it was a dead man, a demonic man, or the American badass, The Undertaker has always been authentic not only to his character inside the ring, but also in real life as well. The Undertaker's authenticity has not only allowed him to be known as a locker room leader, but it also makes one of the most loved characters and, more importantly, loved and respected wrestlers in the business. The more important lesson that we learned from The Undertaker and his authenticity is that anyone that means anything to you will always see through all your crap. Staying true to you and believing in what you fight for is what it's all about and one of the strongest qualities to have for yourself. Unlike The Undertaker, guys, when you are not your authentic self and your true self to others, you will never do what has to be done consistently for decades inside and out of the ring like him. Much like that, we all should be doing the best version of ourselves. See, The Undertaker's persistence and authenticity has continued to also help him inspire millions simply by being his authentic self. Now, you don't have to be a superstar like The Undertaker or countless others. You just have to be the best, true, authentic person for you. Now, on to the final lesson and the character. I need you guys to stick around because we got lesson number 4 coming up. This person here, if you don't stick around for it, you're going to make the list. Finally, our 4th and last lesson is a must-have or do. It is important as a car that needs gasoline. See, without this or doing this, persistence, adaptability, or even being authentic will never happen or even matter. The perfect wrestler that evokes this quality has lasted over 4 decades now. He's won his first major American title over 20 years ago when he became the ECW television champion and has gone on to win countless more in WCW, WWE, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. He made his biggest impact lately when he signed with All Elite Wrestling led by Cody and the Young Bucks. All of his success ties in perfectly when it comes to the importance of our 4th and final lesson on how to evolve and succeed in what you want to accomplish, and why that's none other than the man who created the list, Chris Jericho. He's our perfect example for this. Over the years and through a number of brilliant and hard to describe gimmicks, I should say, Chris Jericho's decisions and choices have come down to one simple fact, which is our latest lesson. That lesson is the ability to take action and/or imperfect action. Taking action for millions evokes fear and a lot of doubt into the mindset of others. Waiting for the perfect moment does really make things hard. But you know what? For Chris Jericho, his mindset is different and he sees taking action as a means to continuing to evolve. On Busted Open Radio, he said, "It's always that mindset in my head. I don't want to do the same thing that I've done before," Jericho said. That could mean by his match styles, the look, his hairstyle, or even the company that he's been working for. Jericho has managed to transform and sell himself as a smiling goofball and an annoying whiner and a pretentious intellect in the manner of a few character changes or words that he says. In the ring, Jericho's also managed to adapt with the times. He has introduced new moves and new, fresh, aggressive side, rarely seen in the WWE, that fits in the pro wrestling that ever changes today and its trends. Basically, that's why he's been remained a star for over the years. All the things said, Chris Jericho's relevant and at the top of his game and has never been better. Him simply deciding and taking action wasn't always perfectly planned. If he never opened his mouth years ago on the idea for such things as Money in the Bank ladder match, we wouldn't have some of the most memorable title changes in history. I'm sure you guys would agree. If you didn't take action on starting the list, we wouldn't have some of the funniest backstage segments in wrestling, especially with Kevin Owens. Finally, his recent match with Kenny Omega are some of the best in years. If Jericho didn't take that action or see what opportunities he could have in New Japan Pro Wrestling, we would have missed out on such great wrestling and storytelling. More importantly, guys, for him, he may not have formed the relationship he has now with Cody and the Young Bucks and AEW. Through this, he continued to evolve, and his willingness to take action. Chris Jericho is the best example and lesson I can teach you guys as a wrestling fan and as a coach to help getting your goals and reaching and accomplishing them. With that, what action, maybe scary, are you going to take on now? All right, well, that's our fourth lesson in how to evolve or reinvent ourselves in order to reach our own goals. I hope you like these 4 different examples for the examples and the wrestlers. If you have some comments, say it below, and I hope this helps you out, guys. Now, through our main event interview, we're now going to interview Robert Strauss and not only learn his role in The Rock's new TV show, The Titan Games, but his own lesson on why he too evolved his character from Robbie E in order to continue to do what he loves, which of course is professional wrestling. I am here with the brand Robert Strauss, formerly of TNA, but now of House of Hardcore and many other talents. The man is doing many things out there, and I couldn't think of a better person, a better inspiration. Father of 2 twin boys, former phys ed teacher like myself. I thought it'd be a great person to talk to about how he gets over his obstacles, how he trains, and does all those things. So, Rob, I appreciate you being here.
No problem, man. But I gotta say, I didn't know that. That's great. So you have twins. You're a phys ed teacher. Are we twins?
I think I made him talk to my mom.
And we're like the same height. We kind of have the same body type. This is kind of freaking me. You might be getting a scoop here. We might be brothers and not even know it. This is like
I need to talk to my mother about that one.
Oh, well, like they might have had a drunken night or something.
It's a little strange.
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. So not only do you have twin sons, you are going to be on a NBC's Titan coming down the road, which we'll talk about in a minute. But one of the things that you mentioned before that we have a little bit in common is you're a former phys ed teacher. So how do you get from being 18 years into business, phys ed teacher, to deciding that, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and, you know, ironically come back to one of your home turf of being here?
It's all full circle, right? That I'm back here right now in this weight room. It's kind of weird, but I mean, it's a good question. So I love pro wrestling my whole life. I started when I was 16. I started training with 3 of my best friends. I was a junior in high school. I went to Kennedy, JFK, which is a few schools over in the same town. And 2 of my friends dropped out before the first match. My other one, I wrestled the first match, and then he quit, and then it was just me. So I was left alone at 16 years old, but I still did it. My first match was on my 17th birthday. So then I finally got my license. We didn't need rides from our parents anymore or anything. I was able to drive there myself 3 times a week training. And then, I just started hitting the circuit. You know, on the weekends you wrestle for $10 to try and make a name for yourself. During that time, when I did graduate high school, I still went to college. I went to Kane University for phys ed. There you go, to have something to fall back on. And I mean, I just hoped for something to happen. And then I started teaching right here, Woodbridge High School, phys ed and health teacher. And then my second year teaching here, which was my 10th, almost my 10th year wrestling, I got offered a contract to wrestle full-time. So I resigned from teaching and then started wrestling full-time, traveling all around the world, and the rest is history. And to sum it all up, and then 8 years later, we're back at this school doing a fundraiser for the athletics department where I used to teach, in the weight room right here where I used to teach kids. It's pretty crazy. Life is weird.
It's pretty cool. So many people wish of, you know, just quitting their job one day, and there's many securities that come along with teaching. There's many stresses, by the way, but there's many securities that come along with teaching and so forth like that. What made you, so many years being into it already and so forth, giving that up as for going for your dream?
I mean, it was only my second year teaching, so I would have been starting my 3rd year, which would have been my tenured year. And, you know, you're right, like you said. I mean, I didn't have kids at the time, but I was getting married soon, so, you know, leaving the benefits and leaving the comfortableness, is that a word, of being here, I took a risk. And to be honest, I'm going to tell you straight up, my first contract when I left to wrestle full-time was $300 a match. And it wasn't even guaranteed how many matches you could get. And I walked away from teaching for that betting on myself, saying I know, because after a year of like your minor league year, if you do good, you're gonna get a real money contract. And I took a risk, and I worked for it for 10 years. Like I said, I wasn't gonna turn away this opportunity that I had.
Right.
And I took the risk on that joke of a money, and I turned it into a great living. You know what I mean? So it did happen. I got the salary I wanted. It turned into real money wrestling, and thank God, because whatever. But teaching degree doesn't go bad. I got that to fall back on if I need it, which is what I recommend when I train guys, or if guys do seminars with me. I always tell them, have something to fall back on if you're trying to be a wrestler, because that's what makes me feel comfortable, knowing that I could come back if I needed it.
Gotcha. Cool. So, in terms of your full first-on contract and stuff like that, you wrestled for a period of time for TNA, as many of us know out there, as Robbie E, as your character. Around that time period, the famous Jersey Shore and everything was on. Was your character based off of playing off the popularity of that, or how'd that character come about?
Well, it definitely was, but I didn't create it. I was actually there just for a tryout as my old name, which was Rob Echoes. I was doing like a pop star character where I was like a music singer. I would sing on the way to the ring. And I was just there for a tryout. The other guy that was there for a tryout, a guy named Bobby Fish, who's in NXT now, they were actually looking at him more than me. So we had our tryout match. Luckily that afternoon, one of the agents, Simon Diamond, he was in ECW, his name is Pat Kenny. I was talking to him, and Vince Russo, who was the head writer at the time, walked by. And literally, Pat Kenny just said, "Hey, Vince, you always wanted to do a Jersey Shore character. This guy's from Jersey." Literally, just making a joke. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're from Jersey, bro?" And I said, "Yeah." They talked privately, and then they came back and they were like, "Hey, could you spike up your hair tonight? We want to look at something." So if he never made that joke to him as he walked by, this whole thing never would have happened. I would have just had a match as Rob Echoes. It wouldn't happen. So anyway, luckily I was a fan of the show anyway, so I kind of knew how to act. And I spiked up my hair that night, fist pumped on my way to the ring. They watched my entrance, him and Dixie Carter. They went out live and watched it. And just after my entrance, they came back and they were like, "Sign me to a contract."
Cool.
So it was right place, right time. That joke was made and it just happened. But I took that, that could have been a 3-month lived thing. They saw in me that I was, intelligent in wrestling, that I understood wrestling, that I knew how to carry myself in a locker room, that I could have a future in wrestling. So that's what kept my job there. That's why Cookie was gone so quick, the girl that managed me, but I stayed. So, that's why I originally bet on myself when I had that first $300 BS contract, because I knew that if they saw me and saw my true talents, I could get something bigger, and I did.
Cool. Who is the influences training-wise for you, like training schools for you and so forth?
So I trained at a school, like I said, I started when I was 16, called IWF. It was in West Patterson. They ran local shows, like independent shows, when I was like in middle school at VFWs and stuff by my house. So that's the only independence I knew of. And then at one of the shows, when I was like 15, they announced that they were opening up a wrestling school, but you weren't allowed to start until you were 16. So that's the only school I knew of. So right when I turned 16, me and my 3 friends, we joined. And the trainer was Kevin Knight, who, it was a good school. I didn't agree with a lot of things he did. A lot of people ended up leaving that school, but the training was good. And then, it's closed down now. But a lot of guys helped me throughout the way. Steve Carino used to go there and help guys out. Pat Kenny, who later helped me at TNA, I knew from years then because he would come and train there, so he knew me from back then, so he helped me out. So a lot of good guys would come in and out. And then also out of that school, besides me, was Darren Young. He came out of that school. 2 or 3 of the refs now, Sean Bennett and Dan, they're refs on Raw and SmackDown right now. They came out of that school. So a lot of good guys came out of it. But pretty much everyone along the way had a falling out with the head trainer.
Gotcha. Good. So TNA, you were there for years. You've held the television title when they had it. You've had tag team titles.
X Division.
X Division, yep, and all those things. I'm going to lay money on it's going to be the X Division, but what was probably the most exciting or memorable match that you can remember? I know there's a bunch of guys, a bunch of talents that came out of there that are in all different places of the world right now, but what stands out to you most?
It's so hard. That's always a hard question. I would say it's moments. So like winning the X Division title was a big moment for me because it was so new. It was only like my 2nd match in TNA or 3rd match. So that was just all happening so quick that's probably the most memorable. And it's up there with my favorite too, but also at Bound for Glory, which is TNA's biggest pay-per-view of the year. A few years later, me and Jesse Goddard won the tag titles in San Diego. And that was a big moment for me because that was kind of like, the first one they gave to me because they were pushing the character. The second one, we got the titles because we earned it. So that one kind of felt better. So those are my two memorable favorite, however you word them. But yeah, those are those.
And how long were you in the business of TNA with there when you won the tag titles for that time?
That was in, God, was that 13, maybe 13 or 14? So 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
obviously, when you mentioned about earned and paying your dues and everything that comes
Yeah,
along with
yeah,
it.
they throughout my time there, like I said, they put me first with Cookie, who was very inexperienced, and I made that work because they knew I was experienced, so I could take someone who was inexperienced and make it work. Then I had Rob Terry with me. He was my bodyguard, Big Rob and Bigger Rob. Great guy. I'm still friends with him. But he was very inexperienced in wrestling. But putting him with me, he loosened up, showed a different side of himself. They did that on purpose for me to bring that out of him, and it worked. And then Jesse Goddard, same thing. We were the bromance, but he was very inexperienced, only a few years in wrestling. I helped him learn so much about wrestling. So I take pride in the fact that they were comfortable enough with me to help bring things out of guys. And me and Jesse, they weren't expecting to be as good as a team as we was. We were almost, same with Rob. I mean, we were almost thrown together as a joke, or there's nothing to do with these guys, and we turned it into something. So that's why I feel like we earned that one.
Cool. So, in TNA, moving on forward, you eventually get married. Backstory, fast forward, you have kids. And if we do some of our homework and stuff, you've done things for muscle and fitness along the way besides pro wrestling. How has pro wrestling helped you to get into other areas outside of the ring and stuff like that? So you've done things which was called Dad Bod Destroyer, right? Tongue twister there. So that type of thing, which I've seen a couple of videos working out with Cash and Carter, your kids.
Yeah.
How did that come about? What was the idea behind it, and so forth?
Well, I connected with Muscle and Fitness because they did a few interviews on me throughout the years when I was in Impact Wrestling. One on my wrestling career. I did The Amazing Race, and they interviewed me about them. So about when I did that. So they just kind of always stayed in contact with me. So after I guess they saw that I had twins on like Instagram and stuff, one of the editor guys reached out to me one day. It was just like, "How are you staying so fit with twins?" And I was just like, "I don't know, whatever." And then he was like, "Would you want?" It was his idea to do videos, and then I came up with the kind of workouts and calling it the Dad Bod Destroyer and stuff. So they were funny workouts, just funny videos for you to watch for a minute. But the main point of it was just to say that even though you're a dad, because so many people, my friends, all the time, it's like, well, I have a kid. I mean, I got no time to go to the gym, or I have a kid, I have no time to take care of myself. And it's like, well, what? Nothing changes in your life when you become a father. I mean, don't you want to be a role model and show that you still live in the world to your kids? Like that shouldn't be an excuse. You could wake up earlier, you could wake up later, you could do you could do sit-ups while you're playing with them. I mean, there's always a way to get some kind of workout in and to stay in shape while you have kids. I could do it with 2, you could do it with 1. You know what I mean?
So having twins, I definitely can relate. My daughters are 9 now. One of them will be here this evening, so cheering on and stuff like that. She'll be all into it and crazy.
Nice.
Future, women's champion going on there. She'd like to think she's quite the actress. So how do you balance having 2 kids? You're a full-time dad, besides balancing the wrestling and other areas of brands of your life. Your kids, your sons are young.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? Make time to make quality sessions in the gym, but again, not get lost into doing daily things with your sons.
Well, yeah, my schedule is usually Monday through Thursday I'm home. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I'm on the road for the most part, depending what I'm doing, but that's a normal week. So my wife, she either works from home during the week or travels because she works corporate for 24-hour fitness. So she's either traveling or she's home. So normally, yeah, Monday through Thursday, she's home in our office upstairs, and I'm full-time dad with the kids. And then in that Monday through Thursday days, 8 to 12 and 4 to 8 is daycare at my gym. So I go for a 2-hour session and they're in daycare. So it works out good while I'm working out. And then, yeah, the rest of the day, if we go shopping or run errands, I mean, I'm just stick one between my legs while I'm putting the other in the car seat or to whatever. I mean, they're out of carriers now, but yeah, it's kind of just free for all, and I make it work. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, she's alone with them. So that's how it works a lot. And I mean, there's been times where she's on a red eye home from California, lands at 5 a.m., gets home at 6 a.m., and then I leave at 6 a.m. to go take my 8 a.m. flight. I mean, we pass each other a lot with traveling. So somehow we make it work because both of our schedules are pretty crazy. But I mean, it's making life go quick, and we're showing. I just feel a lot of people change when they have kids, and you don't have to. I mean, make your kids a part of your fun life,
If anybody's seen any of his videos, him pressing his sons over his head. You could definitely get a workout in with your kids. You just gotta, take that chance.
It's hard now, they're getting heavier. I can't curl them anymore.
My 9-year-olds to squat with. It's a little bit much, but they laugh about it still. But, I don't know how long that's gonna last. So is there anything in particular that you do to balance out, the 4 days a week that when you're in the gym that you could recommend for people that are busy?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I work out really basic. I do each muscle once a week. Movement. I'm big into movement, so I move quick through my workouts. I sweat. Kind of like on chest day, if I'm doing 16 sets of chest, after every set immediately I'll do 10 push-ups to knock like 160 push-ups in throughout my chest workout. Or on back day, same thing with pull-ups. On leg day, same thing with squats, just to constantly keep moving. And then, cardio, 10 to 20 minutes depending on the day. But I do everything really hard, But that's it. I mean, I work out pretty basic. I'm not into making things complicated, or not that I'm against the stuff, but like, I'm just kind of old school working out. You gotta leave the gym sweating and feeling like you gotta work out in. That's the most important thing that I feel. And I really go by also that the muscle doesn't know how much weight it's lifting, it just knows how hard it's working. For a lot of people who are messing up their form with extra heavier weight that they don't need or anything, I just make sure I do everything perfect and I work hard.
Cool. So another part of the aspect that we talk about is nutrition. And I know you've mentioned before in the past for like meal prep and stuff like that. How do you manage, what's the best thing that works for you during the week with your two sons that are running around, keeping an eye on them? How do you do with food prep, even on the road and stuff?
Well, today I was at my parents' house and I ate a bunch of Christmas cookies that my mom made, so that helped.
You're in the
But to be fair, man, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I've never actually been on a diet in my life. I do watch what I eat, but I've never been on like a written diet or a strict diet. I do have good genetics, and I just naturally don't like a lot of sugary stuff. I don't like eating a lot of bad food, which it makes me just feel gross. So I just don't often. But if last night, I ate a bunch of sushi and whatever because I felt like it. You know what I mean? So my main thing during the week, I would say, is I kind of just stay away from. I'm good at staying away from carbs, and on the weekends I kind of just do what I want. But now that I'm 35, it's like I am slowly starting to see that on my body. So in time, I might have to get on a strict diet, but I really haven't ever.
It's pretty good. So expanding out from the wrestling and doing things like stuff for House of Hardcore and stuff. Prior to expanding outside of other things with wrestling, how did you come about with Tommy Dreamer and House of Hardcore and be kind of what seems to be like kind of a mainstay?
Well, I mean, I've known Tommy for 9 years now. Well, I've probably even known him longer than that, but known him well for 9 years. And, we're friends or whatever. So when I was done wrestling full-time for TNA, he obviously offered me to wrestle House of Hardcore. And I just knew it was time. Robbie E. I mean, now Jersey Shore's back and it's big, go figure. But at the time, it was done, so it was very like, Robbie E., I need to do something new. While I'm still kind of young and I have a chance to have a different side of myself, Robbie E. was played out, so I just had to create something different. So I was big into Gary V, and I thought Gary V, Robbie E., that kind of works. But then I ended up changing the name anyway to just my real name, Robert Strauss. But I figured everyone on social media now is a motivational person. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks they're knows everything about motivation and positivity. So why not turn that into a character, but in a crooked way? Because so many people just want to tell you things, but they really just want your money. And do you really believe these guys? Is Gary Vee telling the truth? Is Tony Robbins telling the truth? So that's pretty much who I am. I come to the ring with a little microphone thingy on, an ugly sweater, some annoying glasses, and I'm Robert Strauss. It's the Robert Strauss brand. I mean, tonight at my high school, obviously I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be a fan favorite here. But so I'll just be Robbie E tonight. But yeah, I mean, that's it. And no one's doing it in wrestling. And House of Hardcore was a good platform to do it on because it's on Twitch. Everyone has their eyes on it because Tommy's involved with it. So I just figured if I'm going to do the character anywhere, that's a good place.
Cool. So how often now with House of Hardcore are you performing and stuff? Is it just on the weekends or how many shows per week?
I mean, my weeks always vary. I mean, sometimes I might have 4 shows in a week. Sometimes I might have the random week where I only have 1 show. This weekend, it's only today. I only have 1 show. But normally, always at least 2, usually 3. Like I said, usually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I'm on the road. So I'd say typical is 3 shows a week. Yeah. And then, of course, there's always the random during the week. I might have a seminar. I mean, sometimes I record different TV shows or podcasts, or I do some commercials sometimes for stuff. So random things pop up. I was away for over 3 weeks filming the Titan games for NBC. So who knows what pops up in my life. But You know, I had a tryout with the WWE at the PC a few months ago, and it went really well. So I'm hoping 2019 is my year to connect with them, and that would be, you know, life-changing, and my goal would be fulfilled in wrestling of getting to wrestle for WWE. So I'm hoping that is what 2019 brings.
So when you did your tryouts, speaking of the tryouts,
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that involved as far as coming in, because obviously you've been in the industry for a while, so it's not somebody new coming in saying, hey, I think I want to give this a shot. See, we do get older. So what was that like coming in? Was there a little more higher expectations for you because you've been in the industry, you've been around the game for a period of time?
Maybe privately, but I mean, we were all just treated the same. I knew going in, you know, it's kind of like starting over. Half the guys there are untrained, you know, they're former athletes from the NFL guys or whoever guys, or they're rugby players, and some of the greatest athletes like in the world were there. It was crazy. But I was the smallest and I was the oldest out of all, because at the time I was 34 and I just turned 35. Out of all 45 or whatever people, I was the smallest and the oldest. So, and then half the guys have no clue who I am because they're not even wrestling fans, because they're just pro athletes. So it was, you know, kind of just, you got to have no ego and go into it with a smile on your face. It's starting over. You're running the ropes. You're taking back bumps, stuff that I learned 18 years ago, but I don't use it in that way anymore. So it's like, it was, you know, you got your mind has to like start over again, and you're in your set ways, but you have to do it that way. So it's hard in that way. But I excelled, and the cardio was hard. They push you, but I didn't give up. Some people did, and I didn't. And then, you know, we got to do matches and speak, and I did well at that stuff. And yeah, overall, I did really good, you know. But as far as being held at a higher level, I mean, not that they told me. Everybody was an equal. Yeah.
Cool. So that'd be kind of cool to see a WWE, NXT, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Either way, I consider them both on the same level now.
Yeah.
The amazing people, like you mentioned, Bobby Fish, NXT, and you know all the great things those guys are doing down there. And many people consider that kind of like a little bit bigger or more interesting nowadays, I guess you'd say.
Whatever your flavor is.
Yeah. So you mentioned about Titan Games, and you've been quoted doing a little research as far as you actually are fortunate enough to be one of the, I believe, 64 or so contestants on Titan Games. You had a tryout for the show. Tell us how that happened, and what do you exactly mean by it was American Gladiators back in the 80s on steroids?
So it was, so casting reached out to me because they saw those muscle and fitness dad bod videos. Someone randomly reached out, said they saw the video, would I be interested in doing this show? I had no clue what the show was. I had to fill out a thing, do a phone interview. They loved me and they flew me to LA, as were everyone else, like, you know, maybe a few others like me, but for the most part, everyone had to apply. And at first, they announced it as over 80,000 applicants. Now The Rock is saying over 100,000 applicants. So it's like one of the most tried out for reality shows in history. But anyway, they flew like 120 of us there for this fitness combine thing. They evaluated us, they did interviews, and then out of that 120, they chose 64 of us. And I got chose to be one of the final 64. And that was it. And as far as American Gladiators and steroids, same concept kind of, but I mean, when you see the set, it's unbelievable. It's just on another level than American Gladiators. When you see like the competitions and stuff, it's from the makers of American Ninja Warrior, so it's like way more hardcore than Gladiators. It's like rustic, like from the movie 300 kind of era looking. It's just really cool, dude.
Yeah, I believe they did it outside. It wasn't like on a Hollywood set or anything. It was literally outside.
It was outside in a big, was that a motocross or big like derby where they do that in the middle, dude. It was enormous. But The Rock brought his Iron Paradise, you know, his workout thing. Yeah. But it was on the other side of the set. Okay. I just wanted to see it, but I didn't get to.
That would be like a kid in a candy store right there. Iron Paradise compared to certain things you work with, it's crazy. Right. So it's ironic that you mentioned about you did your dad bod destroyer and
just
how
randomly got
and how things come around full circle. So many people come out there and they think that a lot of wrestlers come out and all of a sudden it's like they're like the one-hit wonders. They're this athlete. They come out, they get signed and stuff. Even though as much as you've had experience, and this happens to be a whole other concept, a whole other avenue of your life with this show. And it's full-on athleticism and stuff.
It had nothing to do with wrestling.
It had nothing to do with wrestling. I'm sure that helped out to a degree, but just being in shape. How much do you think it plays a role in the things that you do now or things you've done in the past that leads to more opportunities?
It just depends who you are and how you present yourself. Like, I'm very good. It's hard to stay relevant in 2019. There's a lot of competition. Everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants to be on a reality show. Everybody wants to be a wrestler. I mean, it's so hard to make it now in anything. And even when you do make it, it's like, what's really making it? I mean, there's so many channels on the TV right now. There's, you know, years ago when I first started in TNA, there was like 50 or 60 channels where like literally guys would tell me, you know, anyone would say, hey, I was flipping through the channels and I saw you on TV. That can't happen anymore because now there's 1,000 channels. People don't flip through channels anymore. There's DVR and all that stuff. It's not like that. So even if you're on TV, if you're on a small network or something, it can be meaningless or no one can even see you. So to actually be on a real channel, on a real grand stage, and to be an actual someone is hard nowadays. So after leaving TNA, where I had a good platform to stay relevant, has been hard. I mean, the muscle and fitness stuff helped me. Now this Titan Game stuff will help me. I had my own show on Fight TV, which is like an app, but now it's getting a lot bigger with MMA and stuff. That helped me. I have a podcast on the MLW network, which is now helping me because, I mean, it's every week it's in one of the top 10 podcasts, wrestling podcasts in the world, but top 10, I mean, that's pretty good. So a lot of people are hearing me. So it's just finding different avenues to connect with people and keep your name out there. And then, like I said, I still travel around the world wrestling. And that's it. I'm doing my best to try and keep Robbie E or Robert Strauss alive. It's hard, man.
So you mentioned about your podcast, which is called How It Ended.
Why It Ended. Yep.
Why It Ended,
Yep.
sorry.
No, it's all
so tell us a little bit about that. And you mentioned that it's a little bit different because there's hundreds of podcasts that are out there. How is yours different, and which is awesome to stay in the top 10 because it's relatively new?
Yeah, well, it's, I didn't want to do it at first because, like you just said, everyone has a podcast. And I'm like, most people just do them to hear themselves talk. Like, I know people do podcasts that 20 people listen to them in wrestling, you know? And it's just, I feel like a lot of people do it just to say they do it. And if I was going to do it, I wanted it to mean something. So I got the offer from MLW, which was such a good platform. I wanted to think of something, and I came up with thinking of guys that I watched when I was a kid who, like, you don't see at shows anymore. You don't see at conventions. They kind of vanished. And then I came up with the name Why It Ended. So it was like, whatever happened to whoever I watched in '89, just to bring guys on that people say, oh crap, I forgot that guy even existed. That's how it started. Now we kind of have anyone on just to tell their story because it'll never get old because it's basically the story of why their career ended, and everyone has a different story. So it's never going to get old. I mean, the show could really go on forever because every week's going to be different because everyone has their own unique story. So I think that's what makes it stand out a little bit. And then the fact that I'm a wrestler, I feel that a lot of people I have on are comfortable to talk to me because I'm a wrestler, and most of them I have some kind of relationship with. So they'll open up a little bit more compared to what some, you know, they might go on other podcasts and not feel comfortable with people if they don't understand wrestling, you know?
No.
And my co-host is a fan, so it's
Right,
like the
just
fan
about to say that.
wrestler, so it works out very good having both on.
And your co-host, Matt Kuhn.
My
Right.
co-host, Matt Kuhn,
Yep,
yeah,
right.
he's kind of like the geek who knows all the info, who preps, and I come on and I know nothing, and I just react like a fan would react. Like if I'm asking a question, I'm just asking a question because I really want to know, and then I say, God, the people listening probably would ask that same question.
Right, that's pretty cool. So it's understandable that you will be in the main event tonight, teaming with Tommy Dreamer.
Yep.
And you've been
First time ever teaming with
First
Tommy
time ever. So first time ever. I know you threw it out on Twitter the other day. What kind of tag team name are you coming up with? And I know behind the scenes there's supposed to be a special referee also.
Well, we have Hurricane Helms, I think, came up with the best one on Twitter, and he said, what was it? Instead of Batman and Robin, it was Fat Man and Jobbin. Me, I guess
okay.
a jobber and him Fat Man, which
Yeah.
kind of worked. So we're gonna go with Hurricane Helms, Fat Man and Jobbin.
Okay.
I think that's the best one.
Cool. So one of the last things we do on the show is a segment called the false finish. And as we
Got
know,
it.
being a wrestler, false finish is when
You're
you're
not
going
gonna try
down.
and put me to this table, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's pretty solid though. False finish is when you're down for 2 and just about hit 3 and you come back. And with the way our show works, when do you feel at times or at a time in your life, regardless of wrestling and not or related, that our fans can relate to, where you were down and feel like you're almost out, but you actually, kicked out and, you found that motivation to continue?
Well, it happens every day at about 6:55 p.m. as both of my twins are crying, and I'm taking them both out of the bath, and I have to put new diapers on them, but one of them pees on me before I could get the diaper on while I'm changing the other one, and there's toothpaste flying, and I gotta get lotion on them and put them in their pajamas, and it's 6:55, and then it's 56, 57, 58, and then right at 7 o'clock the 3 count happens, and it's not a false finish. It's the end of the match, and I won, and I got them to bed, and they made it to their bedtime, and I win every day, and that's what I
So you
got.
just know that it's kind of fair. And every day it gets 6:55, 66. Oh, good, it's the next second longer.
Yeah, but then by 7:05 I already miss them, and I want to take them out of their cribs and play with them. It's like at 7 o'clock I'm like, oh my God, they're asleep, thank God. And then at 7:05 I'm like, I want to go in and look at them. That's being a dad, dude.
I hear you. I understand. It's one of the reasons why I'll be with my daughter tonight and she'll probably be even more excited.
Why
than
did
myself.
only one daughter want to go?
So it's funny, great question. My wife is into wrestling and she likes it and humors me a lot with it and is awesome. And my one other twin daughter is like my wife in that aspect where it's like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. But you mentioned to them that we're going to an event or a special event, which I can't really mention about right now, and they'll be all excited. They went to Women's Evolution with me. They loved it. They had signs. I want to drop kick Barbie and, beat up Ken or whatever, that whole empowerment, which I try and teach them every day. The other one is all about acting. She would probably cut a promo with you if she could. Maybe later on tonight we can do that.
Hey.
And she'll be there doing the whole Sasha Banks
Tell her to
thing.
make sure she has a loud Robbie E chant going.
I will make sure, and you'll see me because we'll be in the front row.
All right, well, awesome, dude.
But either way, guys, that's Barbells and Body Slams. That's how we do it here. This is Robbie E, better known right now as the man Robert Strauss.
Thank you.
We're here at Woodbridge High School. We're here for a great cause. I look forward to a great night. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Tom Babiak, Barbells and Body Slams. Remember, drop kick your obstacles and climb to the top rope of your fitness success.